Good afternoon and welcome to today's Caregiver Health and Wellness webinar, The Joy of Using Lego Serious Play in Caregiving. My name is Allegra Jaffe and I am a caregiver specialist with the Fairfax Area Agency on Aging. Before I introduce today's speaker, I will go over a few housekeeping items. You should have received an email this morning with the speaker slides, so you'll have them for future reference. We will also allocate a few minutes at the end of the presentation for you to submit your questions by typing it into the question box on your panel. Today's presentation is being recorded, and a recording will be sent to all the registrants by early next week. And there will be a brief survey as you sign out, so please help us by giving us your feedback. In addition, we will be doing a Lego exercise. So if you have a Lego set, this will be a great moment to have it near you. Also, if you don't have the Lego set, that's okay. You can still participate and learn from it. Now it's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker and instructor, Loretta Veney. Loretta Veney is an inspirational speaker who has delivered more than 300 speeches and presentations on dementia and caregiving since 2014, offering a wealth of information, encouragement, and humor to her audiences. Loretta is the author of Being My Mom's Mom, Refreshment for the Caregiver's Spirit, and Colors Flowing from My Mind. In 2006, after her beloved mother, Doris, was diagnosed with dementia, Loretta began learning everything she could about the disease, becoming a fierce advocate for her mom in the process. Loretta and her mom have been featured in articles in the Wall Street Journal, Psychology Today, the Washington Post, the New York Times, AARP Caregiver Stories, as well as a PBS special. In 2019, Loretta was selected as Trailblazer of the Year by Johns Hopkins Medicine. In November 2021, Loretta and her mom were featured in episode 6 of season 4 of Robin Roberts' Thriver Thursday series, which previewed on Good Morning America during National Caregivers Month. Loretta is going to be sharing her expertise with us today. Thank you, Loretta, and welcome.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
All right, and I hope everyone can see the screen. And we are ready to go. Well, thank you so much for having me this morning for the joy of using Lego Serious Play in caregiving, and I hope you enjoy it. So we just have a few objectives in our short time that we have today. And so I'm going to start with sharing our story. How in the world did we get started with all this Lego stuff in the first place for me and my mom? And then I'm going to define for you, explain a little bit about the Lego Corporation and what Lego Serious Play actually is. And then I'm going to show you how we actually use it in activities with caregivers, with those with dementia, and then pairs or teams of folks who have dementia along with their care partners. And then we're going to do a very short little demo exercise, and we will end with questions. And so I hope that sounds like a good use of your hour. So what is our story? Well, I'll tell you, my mom was diagnosed with dementia in 2006, and at the time she was 77 years old. So the pictures that you are looking at on the screen, that first picture at the top, that was my mom in 2016, and that picture was taken by a photographer for the Washington Post. So that was, a little more than 10 years after her diagnosis. And by 2014, when she no longer remembered who I was, thankfully, she did remember our lifelong, literally lifelong connection through Lego bricks, and that helped to keep our communication alive. And Unfortunately, after 16 years with this really crazy disease, my mom died on January 31st of this year. It was 3 weeks, almost 3 weeks prior to her 93rd birthday. So I not only had 3 Lego events on her birthday, I did a thing for Hilarity for Charity. I did a sort of open event from Lego lovers around the world that was attended by 5 people outside the United States. And I did a family Lego event too. And so I am also dedicating this presentation to her. You can even see I have a Lego mask. So we take the Lego thing to the extreme in our family for sure. And these are just some of the most amazing moments that I'm going to remember for the rest of our lives. So how did this start in the first place? Well, in the eulogy I gave for my mom, I talked about how my mother was very frugal with her money, but she believed that educational toys where you could use your imagination, that was worth investing time and money in. So she bought me my first Lego set when I was 5 years old. She taught us that we could build anything and be anything, and I absolutely believe that. And in that picture is Mom and her best friend, Mrs. Adams. They were best friends since kindergarten, and I found out 2 days before my mom's funeral that Miss Adams had died too. So I guess they're dancing together in heaven and probably doing some Lego stuff too. So that's my hope anyway. So unlike a lot of teenagers who don't want anything to do with their parents once they turn a teen, we kept building. We would build, if a boy wasn't speaking to me, we built with the Lego bricks. If she was having a hard time at work, we built with the Lego bricks. Everything we did surrounded, was really around Lego bricks helping us work through things. And wow, isn't Alzheimer's something that you really want to work through? You want to get rid of it, but you certainly can't. So after her diagnosis in 2006, we used it all the time so she could express exactly how she was feeling. And she was very quiet immediately in the car after her diagnosis. And I tried to get her to talk about it. So I got my Lego bricks out of the center console of my car. I don't go anywhere without Lego bricks. And I asked her to describe how she was feeling. And she took the top of, the head of the Lego person off the little minifigure. And she said that her greatest fear was that years from then, she would lose her head. And what an amazing way to illustrate that using a Lego brick. And so because of all of the joy outside of that moment, of course, all of the joy that being with Lego bricks brought to me and Mom, I knew I had to share it with other people. As part of her eulogy, one of the lessons that I shared that my mom also taught us was to be kind to people and always help other people. And that's why I knew I needed to share this joy with Lego bricks, both with caregivers and those with dementia. So here we are in some of my most favorite memories. And this is amazing. I showed the picture on the left with her in the flowered shirt because I want you to see that even when she was admitted to hospice in March of 2021, that love for Lego bricks, it was still there. So there she is in her little hospice, hospital bed, and still look at all the joy on her face. She is just smiling, and I hope you can see that. And then there we are in the middle picture. Every other day they would get her out of the bed and sit her up. So there we are sitting up, but still doing the same activity with Lego bricks. And take a look at that last picture in the purple outfit. That was the day before she died, and literally about 5 hours before she lapsed into a coma. And the picture is a little misleading in the sense that she could no longer pick them up and snap them together, but she slid them all around her little blanket. And what an amazing thing. I was, of course, there when she died, but what an amazing thing to have a activity that stays with you, in essence, your entire length of time with that disease. And it's such a powerful picture for me. So just a little teeny bit about the Lego Corporation, because they're the reason that we're here today. So a lot of people don't know Lego is not a US company. Lego was started in 1932 in Denmark, right outside Copenhagen, by Ole Kirk Christiansen. Now here's the weird part. He created it in 1932, but he didn't have a name for it for 3 years. I don't know why. I'm not sure we were ever told that. But when he finally did come up with a name, wow, was it an amazing name. He took two Danish words, leg and gut, which in English means to play well. So not only did Mom and I, play well with Lego bricks for, 58 years of my life, we played awesome. We didn't just play well. So that's, amazing. And so Lego Serious Play was created for one simple reason. If you look at the screen there, you see that in 1999, Lego was selected as Toy of the Century. And that's pretty amazing, right? And I guess they thought it was amazing, but one of the other things they really wanted was to overtake Mattel, the Barbie people, in the #1 spot for the #1 toy company in the world. And one way they felt they had to do that was to look internally. So they asked some people who had been there forever. They sort of spun off into this consultancy, and it was named a lot of things. It ended up being called Lego Serious Play. And so they created it to help improve their internal processes, streamline some stuff, and they thought that that would eventually get them to the #1 spot. And they did get there eventually, but it did take a long time. In 2014, when the first Lego movie came out, that is when they overtook the Barbie people, Mattel, as the #1 toy company in the world. So it took a long time, but they did get there. Now, why am I telling you that story? I'm telling you that story because there are some really powerful lessons that I think relate to caregiving and a lot of what we do when we work with folks in the aging arena. Is the two of the lessons I take from their willingness and desire to create Lego Serious Play to see how they could do things better. And because it tells us, as caregivers and as folks who work with caregivers, that we can always improve. And sometimes we have to look inside ourselves internally to find solutions, right? How cool is that? And then the other thing is, even on the hard caregiving days, as we work with the folks out in the field, and sometimes caregiving is so frustrating, but never give up. So it took, Lego almost 14 years to overtake Mattel as the #1 company, but hey, they eventually got there. So that's why I share that lesson with you. So I had been watching Lego Serious Play for years. And, it was just never the right time to take the class. It was a week-long class. It was a hard class, too, let me just say. And then what you're looking at on the screen there, that is my Facilitator training class in 2014. The gentleman all the way on the right, he has on some burgundy pants and a light kind of purple-pink shirt. He was a 30-year employee and is one of the creators of Lego Serious Play, and he is what they call a master trainer. So you see two certificates on the left-hand side of the screen. The first is for the in-person class I took in 2014. And then who knew COVID was going to take over our lives? So in November of 2020, I also learned how to teach it online. How cool is that? So I'm probably the only Lego instructor you've ever met, right? So, but really cool. But in all seriousness, one of the reasons that I wanted to take this methodology was not only to improve myself, and I thought it would really help a lot of folks that I wanted to work with then and in the future. And I also was very curious as to how Lego Serious Play would help me communicate even more effectively once my mom, because as you remember, 2014 was the first year that she didn't remember who I was. So from that time until her death, my name was basically very nice person. How about that? So how this sort of evolved into me dedicating 2021 as the year of the caregiver came about because of this social media post. Just like all of you out there, I was miserable during that first lockdown in 2020 due to COVID. And during that time, I'm a 5th generation Washingtonian. And so my mom and I had never been separated. I went to college here. I got my master's degree here in DC. So we had never been separated for long periods of time. So that 99 days that I went without seeing my mom was just epic and miserable. And so there's mom looking through the glass at me with my mask that says I'm smiling. There's the caregiver standing in the background, Janet, and protecting, mom, make sure I don't get in and she doesn't get out. And then I went home. It upset me so much. My mother kept trying to open the door and she couldn't understand why she couldn't go outside. And so I was, I went home and created it in Lego, and that thing got thousands of posts, and all the caregivers and family members, everybody was commenting about how, upset they were about this whole thing. And I could see how deflated and, low morale that caregivers were having. So that's when I decided to dedicate 2021 and beyond, to the year of the caregiver. So now we're going to get into how I have used it for both professional and family caregivers. So as you look at the screen there are a variety of ways I've chosen to use it and been really effective with it. So the first thing I have helped mainly professional caregivers do is help organizations build their strategic plans and their mission. So how can they better help people who need the Department of Aging, or who need in-home care, or all these memory care facilities or adult day programs. So I helped a lot of people sort of flesh out their strategic plan, how to get more focused on their mission, and we did all of that using Lego Serious Play. And then when I started to focus on family caregivers, I helped them throughout the end of 2020 and all the way through 2021, help them to build joy and hope, or rebuild it, because we lost so much during that 17, 18, whatever months it's been now with COVID. And then some organizations wanted to build with Lego bricks solutions to a lot of the challenges that caregivers face. And that was mind-blowing. I'll show you some pictures of that, of course. And I asked caregivers to look internally into how they could build strength and goals. My mother's nickname was Wonder Woman. And why did she get that name, you ask? She got that name because, several times, not once, not twice, but 3 times, they told me my mother was dying. And she clearly did not get the memo that she was dying. And so even when we called in hospice, I was told my mother had hours or days to live. Well, 10 months later, she finally died. So we had a bonus 10 months, during which you've already seen quite a few pictures, and she was very active. So we named her Wonder Woman. But what I've been trying to do with the building strengths and building goals, sometimes family goals for caregiving, is to help caregivers see their inner strengths. So whether they stack all the bricks up, or make them as strong as possible, it was an amazingly empowering session. And then I have also done sessions just where you give caregivers a little Lego plate, looks like a plate, and that's what people build on. And sometimes we just build Lego art as a stress reduction kind of thing, and then they can tell stories to go along with what they built. So that's how I have been using it with both professional and family caregivers. So let's take a look at some of what that looks like. This is a church group, actually my church group this is the caregiver, one of the caregiver support groups, and they were building art on this Saturday morning, and you can see everybody's really into it. Everybody's head is down, people are smiling. I'm in the background telling people what to do. And but you can see people smiling, some people are looking for different pieces, but they're very intense in what they're doing, and they're having lots of fun. So the family caregiving dynamic has been amazing. My largest partner that I have been doing presentations for was Johns Hopkins, but I never mentioned the Lego Serious Play certification facilitation that I had. I just did speaking engagements for them. And after I decided to dedicate 2021 to the year of the caregiver, then I told Hopkins about it, and their response was, "Why didn't you tell us this before?" So it just broke loose. They have 17 different support groups at Hopkins, and I've done almost every one. And this is the latest one you see, which is a few weeks ago, and right before my mom's death. So everybody sent me good wishes. I knew it would only be a matter of days then. But look at the happy, smiling faces of these people. And this was their Elder Plus and their Call to Care programs, and they were building hope on that day. And I think the young lady on the far right of the screen in the middle, she's really young. I'm not sure how old she is, but her husband has early onset and she was building strength, for herself. That's what gave her hope that she was going to be able to make this journey with her husband. And so some of the things people share are just profound. And when you had them building solutions, the lady holding up the little Lego tree, and the yellow part representing her being out in nature with the sun shining. So that's what gives her hope on tough caregiving days. So really amazing things. And the lady on the left at the bottom, you can barely see her husband in the background. And she was I have a Lego heart that I use in my kits. And she had two Lego people holding up the heart, representing their love for each other. And they've been on this journey for 9 years already. So a lot to stake of building hope. And these are just some other sessions of Hopkins people, and I did quite a few sessions for them in 21 once I declared it as the day. So you can see the top on the left-hand side picture, you can see I'm the only one, sort of watching. Everybody's head is down. They're building on the top picture, and then on the bottom picture, one gentleman is showing what he built, and everybody else is smiling and looking at what he's sharing. And everybody takes a turn in sharing, which you'll see in just a few minutes when we get into the dynamics of how it actually works. And so I think, one of the things I want you to see and how you can, use these things is look at how diverse not only the people are who, can get great benefit from it, but also how they are basically using the same bricks in my kits to build very different things. And so very cool. So this is the Hilarity for Charity session that I did. I want you to take notice. I know it's a little blurry, but I had to put it in there. The picture in the middle on the left, a whole family came. So grandma is sitting there with it. There was a 10-year-old, a teenager, and the mother in that family, and they all helped with caregiving. And that little 10-year-old, you cannot see her in that screen, but she was sharing that, there were one of the challenges for her was she couldn't communicate with her grandma, and she built this sort of bricks built up like a fence that was a barrier between she and her grandmother. And then when I asked her to build a strategy to get around that, she knocked that wall down and said she put 2 chairs together and little Lego people. And she says, I'm going to look right at grandma and communicate with her. And when I tell you that everybody on that screen was crying, you have to just believe that 10-year-old stole the show. And it was one of the most amazing times that I had. And then on the right, you see more people sharing. And a lot of people bring the person that they're caring for. You can see the bottom on the right-hand side picture, you can see a hand, and then the lady with the gray hair, she is the mother in the picture, and the daughter is sharing their journey in that picture. I've also spent a lot of time with professional caregivers. This is Generations Crossing. To that date in 2020, it was the end of 2020, right as for the lockdown, or in the middle of one of the lockdowns. This is both a combination daycare adult day program, and thus the title Generations Crossing. To date, that was the largest group I had done. There were 34 of them in that group. And I've since done a larger group, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. So they were building, they were a very cohesive team, but what we were doing that day was ideas to make them even better. The pre-K group, they have one set of mission, and then the adult day program people, they had something else. So we were trying to build some synergies and strategies that you could use over both platforms. That was cool. I also did on the left, you see a group of occupational therapists in Fairfax County, Virginia. They were working with nonverbal folks, and that was very cool. And they were building different strategies to communicate. And so we were having pizza. We were doing a lunch and learn. So there was pizza and soda and a lot of Lego bricks. And then the photo of the 2 folks on the right, they were very proud of their little building thing they had done. These were some of the intergenerational teachers at Generations Crossing. And you can see everybody's looking at the individuals who are speaking about what they built. And that's the whole idea of Lego Serious Play, sharing, but also listening. And so what is unique about Generations Crossing is there are 5 different mother-daughter pairs who work there. Some, James Madison University is right down the street from Generations Crossing, so they have a lot of students there, and they come to do internships, and then sometimes they end up being employees. So you can see I kind of had them sitting together and building different strategies. So I hope you're getting a lot of ideas about how this can play out. But the mother-daughter pairs were really cool. And then in November, I'm sure lots of you have heard of the organization Home Instead, the in-home care folks. Well, I don't know if you know that right at the end of summer, beginning of fall, they were bought by a company named Honor. They are a technology company, and the granddaughter of the founders, whose name is Lakeland Hogan, I'm sure you've seen her on TV and commercials and things advertising Home Instead. She said you have to bring in Loretta to do a Lego serious play to get them all together as a team. So the merging of Home Instead with this Honor technology company, that became the largest group I have ever done as a single facilitator. 67 people in that picture. We did building over a 3-hour period. It's one of the best things that I have ever done. So that's the largest group that I have done to date. And here you see some close-up pictures of them strategizing joy as a unique package unit, Home Instead merging with this company. And you can just, I don't have to describe the joy because I'm sure you can see it here. They sent me the evaluations. I was the highest rated. They had 8 speakers during the 3-day event, and I got the highest rating of everybody. So you can tell they had joy and they found joy and all that kind of stuff. So very cool thing. And so that's the session of how I've used it with both family and professional caregivers. But what do I do with the folks who actually have dementia? Well, a lot. One of the things that has been so heartbreaking at times about this disease is that sometimes as soon as they hear the word dementia or Alzheimer's, people go, oh, okay, sit over there in the corner and your life's kind of over, but it's not. So in the early stage, man, you can do anything. So I started having them building their bucket list. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And then the next 2 bullets, I work with folks, especially going into the late early stage into the middle stages. They can still do tons of stuff. So you'll see pictures of us doing favorite holidays, vacation memories, building their favorite home. Now, folks with dementia always say they want to go home. And so a lot of people will build houses with windows and doors. Thank you, Lego, for having doors and windows. And then in the late stage, because they really can't follow along with the Lego Serious Play that you're going to see in a second, then I usually just have them build some art, which you will also see. Now, here's the art. Check that out. Look at their faces. Look at those happy little people. And they're so focused. Now, if you know anything about Legos, you build with the studs on top, as they call it. But there's an orange arrow pointing down on the right-hand side of that screen. I want you to take a look at that. And you might notice, if you're a Lego person, you might notice that set of bricks is upside down. Okay, you can't see the studs. So the woman who built that turned it over. So when I saw that, I'd never seen anybody do that. So I made a comment to her. Wow, look at yours. It's upside down. She looked at me as if I had 2 heads and was completely crazy. She said, well, of course it's upside down. It's just like my brain. Now I'm gonna just let that sink in for a minute, right? Wow, I learned later she had been a teacher in physics or something like that at University of Maryland for 30 some years. How amazing is it that she recognized, even with her dementia, that her brain, something was wrong with her brain, and she termed it as being upside down. Not my term, that was hers. And so amazing. So I just want you to glance, at that. And even the woman in the bottom left picture who has her arms folded, she had already built hers. And so she was like, okay, I'm done. But she did something. And so no matter what stage they're in, they can still interact and build and have a lot of fun. The lady on the bottom, right, first she said, well, I don't know how to do this. And then when it was time for dinner, she didn't want to leave. So they asked me, could you stay a little while longer? So I stayed a whole nother hour, and 3 people refused to leave. And so we did that. So this is Collington Continuing Care in, I guess that's Mitchellville, Maryland. It's about probably 20 minutes from me. And that's the folks in their dementia wing. So I go there several times a year. These are the intergenerational program. This is Generations Crossing. This is the adult day folks. And look at the smiles on those faces. And the guy with the hat on in the middle of the left-hand side picture, he doesn't do any activities unless it's Lego Day. And the picture on the right, we were building a world without Alzheimer's that day. So I worked with every class, in kindergarten, pre-K, all that, and the adults. And then we did a joint class with the in Generation Kids, and you'll see that in a minute too. So how do I do memories for both the care partners and the people that they're caring for? Well, you sort of get everybody in the same room and you give them a goal, and and have them sort of build together. So again, on the left there's a group of people who showed up. They were building their second model by then, but it works really well. Now the gentleman in the gray and white shirt and his wife, they're Mennonite, and they come to every Lego activity I've ever done there. And he has Parkinson's in addition to dementia, so he really can't use his hands that much. So he tells her where to put the pieces and she does it. So they always work as a team. And then the folks on the right are a group looking to build strength along the journey. And so that's what they're doing. So this past Tuesday, I went to Sterling and to lead the first of a 4-part series for Insight Memory Care's Mind and Body Workshop. And wow, it was mind-blowing. So if you're not familiar with that program, it is for people who have just been diagnosed and their partners. And so we had them build, it was just an hour, so they wouldn't get too tired. And we did 2 rounds of building, and it was just amazing. Those folks were amazing. And if you know anything about, sort of memory cafes, usually they separate. You have the folks with dementia in one room doing activities, and the people who are caring for them in another room. So we did the activity first, and then they split up. And so it was just an amazing way to, kind of bring everybody together. And then another example of this for the holidays, I'm a national speaker for Artist Senior Living. I've been a national speaker for them for 4 years or so, and they have 27 locations in the United States. And so this was one of the first ones of Memory Cafe I've done. Usually I just speak for them, and I've done Lego activities for staff as they built their yearly plan and that kind of thing. But this was the first Artist Memory Cafe, and so we were building that favorite holiday memory. That thing was a hoot. And the gentleman in the second picture in that grid, his wife was sick and didn't come down for the event. They were afraid maybe she had COVID. So the director, executive director, Betsy, built with that gentleman. And how cool was that for him? And so we had a couple of married couples, couple of parent-daughter kind of things, and here are bigger pictures of them. And so again, look at the screen, look at how joyful they are as they're sharing their favorite holiday memory. And most of it was, people around the dining room table or out walking after dinner. The gentleman whose wife couldn't come, she told him everything to build before he came downstairs. So he built, his job was always making sure the tree lights worked, and she was in the kitchen building. So he built 2 rooms, her in the kitchen, and he put their heart outside it because she always cooked with love. That was amazing. And then the couple, he doesn't realize that he and his wife are married. They've been married for 27 years. He thinks she's the girlfriend. And so they go on walks and hold hands, but you can see their heart is in the middle of the picture there. How cool is that? And then the mother-daughter, they built having family over and building bridges and relationships and sitting around the table together. So what an amazing thing. And then the couple, the mother-daughter at the top right, they too built a huge dining room table, and their favorite memory was being around the table sharing stories. I've also done in person during COVID for Sunrise of Silver Spring, and they were building memories. And so they built a cruise, cruise ship, their favorite cruise. And the lady whose family was helping her build that, I was told she didn't talk, but she talked that night. She talked about line dancing and the midnight buffet on the cruise ship. And her niece, who is her only living relative, I was told, cried through the whole thing because they were stunned by how much she remembered. And so again, even in the late stages, we can't count them out. And so I love how many memories we've been able to unfold. So here's some more just pictures from Sunrise. You can see that cruise ship in the middle, and 2 people from Sunrise in Annapolis also came because I'm going to be doing it for them as well. And so just amazing things we can do. And here's some of the funding at Generations Crossing from the Commonwealth of Virginia is based on how many intergenerational groups activities they do. And so we use the Lego pieces that are all white called Lego architecture, so that when they looked or at the table of how we built the world with our Alzheimer's, all the white pieces were built by the youngsters and the elders together. How cool was that? And so I encourage everybody, get those Lego bricks out at home and let the grandkids and great grandkids play with the folks with dementia. So now, in the time that we have left, I'm going to explain what Lego Serious Play is and give you the opportunity to build along if you like. And then we have a volunteer, Carrie, who's going to help us as well. So what you need to know is that there are 4 parts to Lego Serious Play. So I'm the facilitator. So my job is task number 1. I give out the task. So whoever the client is, be it Johns Hopkins, or the senior living, whoever it is, they tell me what they want to achieve. And mostly it's around having fun, but sometimes it's building strategy and things like that. But they tell me what that is, and I build questions to make up task number 1. And then task number 2 is where they simply build to the task. Whatever it is I assign, they build. And then everybody agrees to not only build, but they share as well what they build at the end of the round. And then we reflect on what we've seen and heard. So those are the 4 parts: the task, the building, the sharing, and then some reflecting. Now, how do you build this thing? How does this work? Well, the whole thing is based on metaphors. So I'm asking people to transform their thoughts and, using their imagination and turn them into metaphors. And so whatever you build at home, whatever Carrie's going to be building as we go along is going to be whatever she tells us the bricks are. We're going to say, okay, we're going to clap for her and we're going to move on. And so what most people found so powerful about Lego Serious Play, and why lots of organizations use it, is because the stories are so important. And I call Lego Serious Play an equalizer. What do I mean by that? Well, I've had in the same room the CEO of an organization all the way down to the maintenance staff, the people who make the coffee and the meals, the chefs, everybody in the same room. All titles disappear. Everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's building and sharing. Nobody's arguing about what you said at last week's meeting or what you did when I was a child. It's all about building and sharing. And so, organizations love it because it's a perfect team building thing. It's a perfect family kind of thing. Now look at that green brick on the left. See that brick? It is what Lego calls a 2x4. Two studs going across and 4 down. It is the most popular, and it was the first ever Lego brick, 2x4, and easily to stack. But as you know now, Lego has thousands of different Lego pieces. And so that's just one of them. But what I want you to take away from the green brick, it might just look like a green brick, but no. Suppose I was to tell you it's a organization or a team of people looking to grow. How about that? You get the metaphor? Okay, cool. All right, so Carrie, if you are ready, I want you to grab your bricks, but I want to talk to you before, let me share a couple of things with you about the bricks, because I know one of the questions is going to be, what kind of bricks do we use? Well, Lego makes a pack for this called the exploration bag, but I made my own kit. I use some pieces in that, but I take lots of pieces together and they make lots of noise. You can hear them hitting the table, but this is my favorite piece. It's a heart, as I think you can see, and it has lots of pieces in it. And if I'm dealing with folks with dementia, I add Duplo pieces, which are the much bigger pieces. You can kind of see it in comparison. This is a regular 2x4, and this is a larger Duplo bricks. Now, my mother, even at almost 93, she could use just the little people. She has some Duplo bricks, as you saw in the picture, but she could just as easily do the little one, but she had been doing it, most of my life. So I would say if you're buying a kit, don't spend a lot of money initially if you're looking to try this out. What you want to do is make sure, you have not too little pieces, not something they can put in their mouth if they're in the late stages. You want to be very cognizant of that. So, Carrie, if you have your little pieces out there, I'm going to give you your first task. Now, what I ask people to do, no matter what the bricks are, whether they're using my kit or they bought a real small kit at Target or Walmart or somewhere, and even if it has a picture on the front, you're going to build a car or something, you're just not building that. You're building whatever with your imagination. So, Carrie, what I'd like for you to do is we're going to do a practice task. So what I do to get people used to their bricks is I have them build a bridge. So Carrie, I'm going to give you a minute and a half or so to build. And while you're building that, I'll talk to them a little bit more about some of the pieces, so that you can turn on your camera whenever you like to do that. And what you see here on this slide, I usually give people 3 minutes or 2 or 3 minutes. I usually give them 3 minutes if it is a group that includes folks with dementia, because I don't want to, rush people through. So, but usually if we're working in a group of, 15 to 20 people, everybody gets 2 minutes. So there's plenty of time to share the stories and, that type of thing. So I want to always make sure we have time so that everybody feels heard. And that's especially true if you are working with an organization, say a Department of Aging, like, the group here, and they're trying to accomplish something specific. I want to make sure that everybody has enough time to really say or do whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish in their group. So I think that's, cool. So Carrie, are you able to show your camera at this time? I'm not sure if I need to, let's see, give you the center right or anything. I'm not sure, but you might be able to just turn your camera on.
Okay, I just unmuted myself and.
So the camera is underneath that.
Yep, okay, I'll click it again. There, can you see? Whoop.
Loretta, her camera was on. I don't know why you are not able to see her, but we can see her.
Okay, hold on. I know why. Hold on. I think I have to stop sharing. Oh, there we go. So let's see.
I saw myself for a second and then I went away.
All right, hold on. Try clicking it again.
Okay, share my camera.
There.
There.
See, there you go. Yeah, I think I had to stop sharing. There we go. So why don't you share with us your bridge and the story of it?
Okay, well, I will show you my bridge. It's very, very simple. I have the smaller pieces.
Yes.
And I will tell you, when I started to build it, I started making it going taller. I got a little carried away and I had it like going up pretty. I was thinking like Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. And then I thought, well, people could go under my bridge, but they wouldn't be able to go over it. So I had to remove my pieces so there would be a road for up top.
Now that, can we just give Carrie a hand for that? That is absolutely spectacular. Now, so how did that feel for you, building the bridge? What was kind of the first thing you thought about?
First thing I thought about is a bridge that was memorable to me. And I thought about walking across the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. And
that's fabulous. So if this was a real session, folks, I typically ask that question. Because I don't give people any ideas. This is a practice session for them. I want them, and that's why I asked her the question, and you heard her answer. I remember looking out over the Golden Gate Bridge. That's fabulous. So a lot of people do build a bridge, something that was important to them. I've had people build the Brooklyn Bridge. Oh, I saw that out my window for 30 years until I moved, and yada, yada, and that's fabulous. So you want to know like the history of it, because it gives you some insight into that person. So the other thing, the reason why I have them usually build a bridge that is very important, I think, in caregiving, is that, as we know, and some of the work you all do, that sometimes there is discord in families when it comes to the care of our loved ones. Some people want to do one thing, some people want to do something else. So a lot of times, just to be honest, I have people build bridges in their relationships. What bridges do we need to mend, so to speak? And so I have people do that and give us some insight into what some of the challenges are, and have them kind of talk it out as a family. Because sometimes if I'm asked to mediate certain things within families, I'll whip out the Lego bricks, because sometimes they're not listening to each other. So, but everybody looks at the Lego bricks and like, now you've taken the tension out of the session. So I think that's really cool. So I thank you for doing that, Carrie. And so I have one other assignment for you too with your bricks. So if this was a real session, the next thing I would have her do is like, okay, we applaud. I gave the debriefing of the session. I talked about the bridges, and I would give a summary of what we heard. And I also allow people during the reflection period to ask questions of each other if they need to. And the only thing that I have to do as a facilitator is I make sure whatever question they're asking is about the model. It's all about the Lego model. It's not about what you said at the meeting last week, because my job would be, where is that in the model? And so you can ask whatever you want to ask about her bridge. And she gave you a lot of her strategy. I thought about, we could go under the bridge or we could go over a bridge. So she gave you the entire thought process. But if you had a question about it, you get to ask during that period. And then when we move on, I say, is everybody ready for the next task? And they say, yay, and everybody's ready. And then we go to the next task. So the next thing I'm going to have you build, Carrie, is what brings you joy? What brings you joy? And just put some bricks together. Now, the first thing I tell people is people say, oh, I don't know what to build. So I say, think with your hands. You don't have time to write something down or do it. I just tell people when you're having trouble, just snap some bricks together. That's all you got to do. And then it eventually turns into something. And all you have to do is tell your story. So, just to give you some idea, I probably have 55 or so bricks on my desk, but you don't need that. You can do something with just a few bricks. Look at what she did with her bridge and when in just a few bricks. She had more on and she took them off. So you don't need a ton of things. If people ask me what's the ideal set of bricks, a lot of times I would say, how about 20? Like you can go to Walmart or Target and buy a pack. They usually sit on the end of the aisle. So it's just a little plastic pack, and it's like a car or a motorcycle. It's usually 25 or so pieces in there. You can get that. They're $4.99 or something like that. And you can take that home and, build something around and it'd be good. So again, I would have my little countdown screen up if this was an actual session, and they would be building. Some clients want to hear music while people are building, especially if there's people with dementia on there. We pick the music in advance if that's the case. Some people just want silence, and I do the countdown and the little bricks disappear on the screen and they know how much time they have left. And, so it just depends on what the client is and what they want. So Carrie, how's it going?
It's going. Okay.
All right. So, oh, look at that. Look at this woman. All right. Tell us the story of your thing.
This is representing people, and it's many colors and many shapes. So it's not just people, it's all kinds of people in my life, whether it's family or friends or acquaintances or coworkers, but that's truly what makes me happy.
Oh, and you got little eye, you got the little eyes there. That's I love. Now see, look at that description. She gave us color, she gave us different shapes, and she gave us her joy. So that is the perfect. I can't wait to just give Carrie a hand. Thank you so much, Carrie. I really appreciate you. So if anybody else out there was building along with us, I hope you made something fun. And what I hope you take away, if I had to reflect on that, what I hope you take away from this, that one of my jobs is, especially if I'm trying to build morale for caregivers, is I'm trying to have them recognize like their strengths, their superpowers. I'm trying to build them up for whatever challenge might be coming in their caregiving journey. And so that's sort of the point of that. All right, let me see if I can go to the next slide. Okay, so typically we do 3 rounds in a typical Lego Serious Play kind of session. So in the first build, which is basically what you saw Carrie do, I depends on what they're trying to accomplish. A lot of times I'll start with the negative and go to the positive. So because we only had limited time, I didn't want to ask her what stole her joy. So we start with something, I let her just do the building joy kind of thing. But a lot of times if we're doing, hope, I first will ask, what steals your joy or steals your hope? And a lot of times it's about, COVID has just ripped me into pieces. I couldn't go to the gym. I had a gentleman one time build an upside down treadmill because for 6 years, he and his buddies had been going to the gym, and he started to cry when he told the story. And he said, I didn't realize how much I missed them. The gym was closed, of course, but that upside down treadmill, that got some attention, I have to say. And so then I have them break that apart, and there's great emotion in breaking it apart. and one lady dropped her model on the floor on purpose, and it broke into a zillion pieces, and she put the screen down so you could see all the pieces on the floor. And she said, finally, something that captures how broken in a million pieces I've been since COVID. And the whole virtual room just went silent. And a lot of times I let the silence stay because it's important to capture how people are actually feeling. But then in the second build, I show improvement or overcoming or change or whatever it is. So last night I did a dementia-friendly thing in the Prince George's County, Maryland, where I live, and I had them build. Their session was titled "The Unbreakable Caregiver," and I had them build. Their final thing was build you as unbreakable, and I mean that thing was powerful. And then that was for the final build, you want to leave them with inspiration. We hope they keep it up and keep it on their desk so they can see it on the down day. Or I have people take it apart and build something else. People will send me pictures out the blue. Hey, Loretta, we did a good thing today, and here's my build. I built this thing about mom had a great day or whatever it was. So people send me all kinds of pictures. It's the coolest thing. And so that's really how it works. And so when people get to the stage, in dementia, where they can't tell that story, I just have them, do the art. But I still can usually get 2 good rounds in. So depending on, who they are or what they're trying to achieve, that's how I use it. But what I hope you're taking away from this is just how much joy there is in this. It's crazy good. And so I have, done, just so many things. And I put so many pictures up of me and my mom, over the, years that she had it. When she died, we got condolences from 18 different countries. Lego Serious Play facilitators and people who have seen pictures of my mom with the Legos. And so it's really been amazing. So the lessons I kind of want you to take away is I'm looking into some research. I've been asked by some folks in London to take a look at that. I'm probably one of the few people working with folks with dementia with Lego Serious Play. And there's something called 6 Bricks. They use that a lot in Europe. I'm going to be doing that this summer, working with them and 6 Bricks, and see how we can do some collaborations on folks with dementia. And I think the lesson that a lot of people take away from it, like last night when they built that unbreakable caregiver, some of them were crying, just how strong they didn't know, they were. And so it can be much more emotional than people think. But it also brings so much joy and maybe some surprises. When that lady who hadn't talked about going on that cruise 15 years ago, and everybody was crying because she hadn't said a word in who knows how long, that was mind blowing. And I just want you to say, well, however you might use this going forward, certainly take the joy with you, but keep building, as I like to say. And so we have 8 minutes and some change for questions. So I'll stop sharing so that we can see what's happening and see who's out there.
Absolutely. So at this point, I would like to invite our audience to submit your questions. Please use the Q&A button, and I will read your questions to the presenter as they come in. While we're waiting on our audience questions, I would like to ask you a question, Loretta.
Sure.
If your loved one is hesitant to use the Legos, what are your suggestions to engage them to interact and build with the Legos?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'd say, do it with them. I'd say, you can kind of start and maybe, kind of like we saw with Carrie, hey, how about that bridge out there? We used to say, and so sometimes it's just a matter of taking, just a regular conversation and just lifting it up a little bit and say, hey, do you think this looks like whatever it is that you're trying to do? And they say, well, let me see. I wasn't expecting the group last night to bring their loved ones, but this one woman had her whole family and everybody was building. It was like the coolest thing ever. And I sent her a note and say, thank you for doing that, because her mom was 85 and she was building. So how they kind of did something similar. She said, well, I don't know how to do that. And so the kids and the woman who's the primary caregiver, she started building, and then she joined in, and she ended up topping all of them with what she built. So she didn't want to do it at first, but I think watching helps. And especially, a lot of times with activities, people say, here, mama, try this coloring book or whatever. And then you walk away and leave them. And so I think being there with them helps, but it's a great question. Great question.
Have you seen, like you just said, any other type of barriers when engaging with the Legos other than them not maybe having the caretaker with them?
Sure. I think some of it could be, they don't have the, you know, they might want to do it, but they don't have the financial resources. I've had lots of people ask me about, and I say, you know, go to Goodwill or, you know, whatever, to do that. I had a family donate some Lego bricks to me. I'd never met them. They saw me on Facebook. She was trying to teach her sons about giving stuff away. They had gotten a lot for Christmas, so she wanted them to give away some of their collection. I drove to their house. They came out with this big bucket of Legos. So a lot of times you can get stuff from other places if people know it's something that you're interested in. And another barrier might be physical. So the couple I mentioned, the Mennonites in Harrisonburg, she always knows when it's Lego day and that she has to show up because she is his hands. And so I think when people really want to do it, they come up with strategies to sort of knock some of those barriers down, whatever they might be. I would say, you know, especially when dealing with the Hopkins people, they have so many support groups, but they know what the challenges might be. And then they give that to me ahead of time. And if we have to plan something special, or there was a lady who lived alone, they got a volunteer from the hospital to go to her house the day we did it. And that person sat there with them and helped them. And the lady was so appreciative. So if we know what the challenges are, I think there's always a strategy if we just think about it.
Awesome. Here's another question from the audience.
Sure.
Do you have some seniors that get upset, sad, or cry with their memories? And how do you handle that?
Sure, that is a great question. The answer to that is, yeah, not much upset so much, but crying to remember. Some of them cry with joy because I didn't think I could do that. Look at what I made. So you get a lot of that, but that's okay. We just give them a hug. I have not seen the frustration or angry memories because typically if you ask somebody to build you know, a memory, they're typically going to build something good. So I haven't seen the frustration in that. I have seen it, however, on the caregiver side, where when I asked, you know, what are some of the barriers to care, you get, my siblings don't help me. So people will burst into tears and throw stuff. I have had that. And so as a facilitator, it's my job to, you know, just sort of work with that to try to not impact the rest of the group. But it depends on, you know, the circumstances. But it's a great question about that. Typically, I've been doing this since 2014, so I haven't really seen that where they became frustrated by the memory, but they have had some happy tears, or the caregivers have cried in the midst of it because they're so shocked by something that person remembers. Because one of the things that happens with Lego Serious Play is that it's not stuff that's going to come up in a regular conversation. So when the lady asked her aunt, how come you never mentioned the cruise? I can't believe you still remember that cruise. They thought she didn't remember anything. She said, well, you never asked me. Well, okay. But it was true. It's not stuff that comes up in normal conversation, typically. So when people bring me in, they want to see what comes out. So it's usually something that happened a long ago or something. And so sometimes they're tears, but they typically are happy tears. That's a great question, though.
Another question that came in, have you had people in the late stages of dementia / Alzheimer's be able to start using the techniques you shared?
Yes. So, yes. And I would say the lady last night who was there had no idea what she was building or why. She just looked at what other people were doing and she did it. She started doing it. She was not able to share a story, which is fine. They held it up and showed it to her so I could see her. She was sitting on a couch. I could clearly see what she was doing, but she clearly was in the late stages, but she had fun just snapping them together because that's what she saw everybody else doing. So sometimes, you know, I say when they get to the late stages, it's not about the process. So like the pictures I showed of the folks at Collington, they have no idea where they are, but they saw these Lego bricks sitting around and I showed some pictures. I had some pictures up on the wall of little art, Lego art. And they were like, oh, that's pretty. And they did some stuff. And hey, yay, if you put one brick down, I'm going to be happy. So, you know, it's not really about the process. They're not going to build the bridge all cute like Carrie did, but that's okay. I don't care what. Look at this picture that's up there now with my mom. She just smashed some bricks together. At that point, she had kind of forgotten to stack them on top of it. But look at what she did do. She has them kind of in a row. She lined them up perfectly, actually. And, you know, this was 3 weeks before she died, probably. So I think it's not about the process in the late stages. It's more about that they're doing the activity, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And we're getting ready to wrap up now. So To sign out, there will be a brief survey. Please take a moment to answer those questions and help us provide the topics that you are interested in. And Loretta, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your personal experience with us. Thank you for giving us your time and teaching us how to engage with our loved ones with Lego play. And to everyone in our audience, thank you so much for being here. This was our very first session to the Caregiver Health and Wellness series. Our next stop is coming up on March 25th from noon to 1 on calming the storm using mindfulness to meet big emotions. And we hope you can join us then. Thank you again, Loretta, and I hope everyone has a terrific afternoon.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Take care.
Bye.